Welcome to Adam's Athenaeum. Let's take a look together through the news and records of our times as we try to shed light upon the unvarnished truth. Thanks for coming back today to listen to this episode about Marxism, an introduction. Okay, so this is the third of 3 videos in a short trilogy of which I will be covering socialism, communism, and Marxism, each in an introductory fashion, and trying to explain my thoughts and opinions as to how these ideologies have permeated through American society. As a reminder, I'm no history major or anything too cool or smart. I'm just a guy on the internet using as many resources as I can to find out the truth. One might think of our recent headlines: white versus black, left versus right, men versus women, LGBTQ versus straight, rich versus poor, capitalism versus socialism, or democratic socialism as they're calling it these days. And I find something in common. I see the stoking of class warfare. It reminds me of a great line from the rapper Tom MacDonald, where he says, "Let's just have the conversation. Not every liberal is dumb, not all Republicans are racist. The government wants everybody fighting with their neighbors because they know that if we get along, we'll probably go against them." And this was one of the big ideas of Karl Marx. The idea that the world is divided into oppressors and the oppressed. According to Merriam-Webster's, the essential meaning of Marxism is the political, economic, and social theories of Karl Marx, including the belief that the struggle between social classes is a major force in history and that there should eventually be a society in which there are no classes. The full definition of Marxism: the political, economic, and social principles and policies advocated by Marx, especially a theory and practice of socialism, including the labor theory of value, dialectical materialism, the class struggle, and dictatorship of the proletariat until the establishment of a classless society. Reading this definition, it is clear to me that Marx was for the abolition of classes in society, and he wanted to abolish the capitalist systems and replace them with a form of communism. But what does dictatorship of the proletariat mean? According to Wikipedia, since they had a more comprehensive definition, dictatorship of the proletariat means, in Marxist philosophy, the dictatorship of the proletariat is a state of affairs in which the proletariat holds political power. The dictatorship of the proletariat is the intermediate stage between a capitalist economy and a communist economy, whereby the post-revolutionary state seizes the means of production, compels the implementation of direct elections on behalf of and within the confines of the ruling proletarian state party, and instituting elected delegates into representative workers' councils that nationalize ownership of the means of production from private to collective ownership. During this phase, the administrative organizational structure of the party is to be largely determined by the need for it to govern firmly and wield state power to prevent counter-revolution and to facilitate the transition to a lasting communist society. Those few words have a very important meaning. So let's dive into this definition and explain some things. First, the dictatorship of the proletariat is considered the stage between capitalism and communism. I find it interesting that the word dictatorship is used. At least in America, I would hope most Americans would never stand for a dictator, but this would be the first steps of transitioning the government. Second, compels the implementation of direct elections. That sounds like our voting system would be reimagined into something like how Putin has managed to stay in power for so long. No more free and fair elections, only appointees nominated by the new party. Thirdly, it says instituting elected delegates into representative workers' councils that nationalize ownership of the means of production, from private to collective ownership. If you don't know what that means, just look to China. It essentially means that once your business gets too big, holds too much power, influence, or wealth, the Marxist Party will install trusted and prominent party members to oversee operations and functions of your company. Your company will no longer belong to you. The party will own your wealth. Lastly, now yes, I'm going to be slightly hyperbolic. It almost says word for word, the new government will determine what resources it needs to prevent a counter-revolution. To me, that shows the flaw in this Marxist ideology. It already assumes that its ideology will not be wanted or accepted by the masses, and that to implement this form of communism, you must take over the government, change the voting system, and prepare for a counter-revolution. If you have to implement your ideology by force, it's probably not a good ideology to follow. I'll give it to Marx. He realized communism and socialism were failed ideologies that could never be implemented to the idealized point of utopia. He failed by continuing to pursue ways to implement a communist society and rebranding it as Marxism. He bred hate and disdain towards the classes to separate everybody along every possible human category. That is what Marxism teaches, in my opinion, is how to hate anybody for anything that is slightly different from your truth or your lived experience. So how does this affect us in today's society? We all have heard terms such as equity and equality, diversity and inclusion, reparations, critical race theory, and BLM the corporation. These are all Marxist ideas and believers. BLM founders are proud and open Marxists. Your children, our future generations, are being taught to hate America because of its past transgressions. Your children are being told that math is racist. If you're white, you have privilege. And that if you speak to your school board about transgressions with policies, you're a domestic terrorist. What in the hell happened? Wake up, America. I find it hard to believe Americans would blindly allow this to happen to their country, and that is why I created this channel. I created this channel to spread truth, defeat the lies, libel, and slander that I hear every day from mainstream media news. I promote truth here. I expose lies, hypocrisy, and the fake woke media. I hope that what you hear on my channel offends your ears and your beliefs. Not in a rude or mean way, but in a learning and a growing way. I'm not out to hurt people's feelings, but if your feelings get hurt by the truth, the problem is with you, not with me. This is really happening. I can see it and I can feel it. George Orwell's 1984 world isn't too far off from where we are headed. And that's where I'll leave this video on Marxism, an introduction. Thank you all for coming back to watch this video. If you want to continue the discussion or shed light upon truths that I may have missed, I look forward to seeing you in the comments section. If you like the content I create and think it should be shared, then please, by all means share it and leave a thumbs up on this video. I'll see you next time for my video on the truth behind those parent-teacher school board meetings.